In October 2022, I was lucky enough to be invited to speak at the Learning Design Live mini conference at the World of Learning exhibition in Birmingham. This was a real pleasure, as I've always enjoyed the World of Learning events and the Learning Design Live mini events run by the Learning Network within the overall event. So this was a great opportunity to go and share some knowledge, share some experience, share some hard-won knowledge from making lots of mistakes myself. And the presentation that I gave was about learning in the flow with video. So this is obviously a re-recording, not the original. So I've added a few little bits in, refined a few pieces as well based on feedback from the first talk. So let me know in the comments what you think. Is video useful for in-the-flow learning? Are you using it? Is it something you might use in the future? Let me know what you take away when we get to the end of this talk. So there are a few topics that always come up when we talk about video or in-the-flow learning. And I think some of them are valid, some of them are pedantic, and some of them, to be honest, just completely miss the point of being in the flow. In this talk, I'm going to take a look at all three of those, as well as look at some what I consider to be best practice around using video for in-the-flow learning. Now, it's important that we start off fully understanding what we're talking about, because let's face it, when it comes to using video in learning, here be dragons. Video is one of the sharpest double-edged swords. Videos can cost a huge amount of money, they can take a huge amount of time, they can turn your audience passive, they can create a lazy set of learners who simply expect to be told, who expect to sit down with popcorn and a cold drink and just enjoy the learning experience, as if somehow no effort is required from them. However, when used correctly, video can grab the attention like nothing else. Through video, we can make human connection. We can convey stories. We can really challenge people on a human and intellectual level just to push themselves that little bit further. Only though when we get it right. And this sword gets sharper when we start thinking about video in the context of in-the-flow learning. Now, in the next section, we're going to define what we mean within this conversation about in the flow. But broadly, we need to consider that video tends to lead to a larger solution there. Sometimes we start off with a video and what we end up with is an e-learning. Yes, we put some videos inside it, but actually it's a clicky PowerPoint with a video in it now. That's not what we were aiming for in the first place, and it's certainly not in the flow. So, as I've mentioned the term a few times, let's jump into sorting out those definitions. Definitions are important, and our industry regularly fails to clearly define what on earth it is talking about. So, I define in-the-flow learning as one of three situations. The first is current task. The user is seeking support in the task they are completing right stat now. Great example of this would be a gas engineer coming out to replace the boiler, not recognising it, needing support about how to take this boiler out of the wall. Wonderful moment for some in-the-flow support, some in-the-flow learning. Next up, we have known future task, an identified task that is not being completed right now, but will be completed within a set deadline. And we're really talking a couple of days max. We're not talking about, oh, well, in 3 years, I intend to be the CLO, so I'll need to start developing the following skills. That's not in the flow. That's just learning. That's just future planning. This is about the not necessarily immediate task, but the one just around the corner. And finally, and this is probably the most contentious, reflection. When something went badly, or the user would like to improve in future, they reflect as part of the workflow. So that means there is an opportunity for some in-the-flow learning to happen during that period of reflection. So this, broadly speaking, when I say in the flow, is what I'm talking about. Now, The important thing is not that your definition matches mine perfectly, but that you understand what I mean when in this talk I say in the flow. Whether it's is something in the flow, does it fit into one of these three categories, or is this a suitable modality for in the flow, i.e. it's going to be short, it's not going to get in the way, it's not going to tear the user away from what they're actually trying to do. So next up, now that we've defined those three situations where in the flow learning makes sense, let's take a look at video formats. Now, there are 1,000,001 video formats out there, but what I've tried to do here is narrow it down to the 4 that I most regularly include in the flow situations. The first, and probably the most obvious, are walkthroughs. Step-by-step guides detailing the exact process the user needs to follow. Ideal for those with an imminent task pending completion, something they need help with right stat now. Next up, top tips. A few quick but general pieces of advice regarding a situation or task, ideal for someone who knows they have an important task coming up, maybe it's a meeting or their first time running a session, and they just need to know that they're going in with their tool belt stuffed full of equipment. Well, this is what can help them there. Next up, we have explainers. So this is a simplified explanation of a concept or policy. Now, this could, in theory, lend itself to any type of in-the-flow learning. If you've got someone on the phone or someone around needing an immediate explanation for something that you yourself don't understand, a simplified explainer could be a fantastic resource. If you know you've got something coming up, you're going to have a meeting about something you know nothing about, great. Go and watch an explainer. Get prepared. And finally, of course, you're reflecting, you identify that there's a gap in your knowledge. An explainer video can fill that gap there and then with minimal effort in terms of searching. Finally, and again, this one relates pretty specifically to the reflection phase, and that is a guided reflection. Now, these are unarguably less common, but are growing in popularity. One big cause of that is the fact that they also support your employees' well-being. Guided reflections can help ensure that exercises where we reflect back on success or failure or challenge don't spiral out of control, don't damage our mental health and well-being, but also come as a net positive to you and the organisation. So, here are some white boxes. These are my 4 top tips. That's right, we're doing top tips for creating in-the-flow content. The first point, be specific. For in-the-flow video to be effective, it must be as specific as possible to the user's needs. I go back to the British gas boiler story, and I go back to it because it's true. When I had my boiler changed earlier in the year, the gas engineer was younger than the boiler. He had no concept of what this was or how to remove it. I thought we were going to end up needing to wait. I thought, well, that's it. He's got no idea. There's no way he's going to have a manual on him. There's no way. He went to an internal knowledge base his organisation had created and found a video of another engineer taking that exact boiler out of the wall. It called out all the key points. It was in video format. It was informative. It was brief. I mean, it was about 25 minutes of video, but not a single second of that was wasted with fluff or guff or anything that didn't need to be there. It was just what he needed to do to remove this boiler safely. That is a prime example of where only a specific resource would help. A general, this is how to remove a boiler, generally speaking, would not have been any use to this employee. Instead, he was able to find the perfect solution. In chatting to him, I found out they have thousands of these, where he can search by boiler name and find some kind of content guiding him through the process. And when they find one that hasn't been done, they arrange to have one filmed. They either come out to the home or they take the boiler away and recreate the situation. What a phenomenal exercise in creating really impactful in-the-flow video content. Next up, focus on now. Now, we in L&D have a horrible habit of getting very excited about the future of skills and the future of workplace learning and the future of the modern workplace. But in the flow is not about the future. In the flow is about right now. In the flow is about someone asking you for help, and instead of you helping, you going, well, in the future, that's not helping. That's just being annoying. That's being smart for its own sake. Now, trying to future-proof your business, though of course future-proofing is somewhat daft in that it can't be done, but we should still pursue it. It's a perfectly solid goal. It's a great thing to spend your time doing, but it is not anything to do with in-the-flow content. In-the-flow content is the here and now, helping the individual in front of you, not worrying so much about long-term retention and instead thinking, how do I make this person's life a little bit easier through the learning process? Don't be Pixar. That's right, at number 3, it's don't create high-quality content. Now, this obviously has some caveats, but higher production values do not equate to a better support tool. The video that the Boiler Man used is a prime example. It was clearly filmed on a very cheap camera, not even with a tripod. You could see things slightly shifting around. Now, the quality was maybe a little too low, but you know what? It was everything he needed to get the job done, and therefore, it's a quality piece of content. Because in our world, quality isn't measured by the graphics, how funny something is, or whether or not it's going to win the next Oscar. Instead, quality is measured by the impact we have, by the performance of the people who use our content. Never forget, it's very tempting to reach for awards or try and push yourself on a technical basis, be clever, show off, and hey, there are times when that's perfectly okay, but this isn't one of them. In the flow video, in order to be viable, needs to be quick and simple to produce. It needs to not have any unnecessary frills attached to it, because you're going to have to replace it often if it's going to stay relevant. Finally, always look at this world through the user lens. Always consider how the user will access your content. Can it be found in the flow of work? If not, stop. It's useless. If I'm helping a customer and I think, oh, there's a perfect guide to help me with this, but 6 or 7 clicks later, I'm still not there, I've moved on. I've got other things far more important, like my customer, than clicking around in your terrible LMS because I can't find the content and nothing's tagged properly. Equally speaking, think about your LMS. We often think, oh, well, we have that can host our content, and if we're doing in the flow, everything can just be pulled from there. Have you looked at the user experience of your LMS recently? How long does it take to log in? How many clicks? Do people remember their password? Do they have single sign-on? Does it work on all their devices? Do they have to be on the home network in the office to access it at all? These are all things that I've seen. Do you need a separate platform that maybe isn't attached to your LMS for your in-the-flow content? Especially if you're using video, could you use an element of the Microsoft platform perhaps? Maybe SharePoint or Flow or Stream? Perhaps you could use a company Vimeo account. Heck, perhaps you could use a private YouTube channel. There are loads of options available that allow you to make it easy for your people to immediately get to what they need. Because realistically, for in-the-flow content to work, you want to search for it and click to start it. That's it. Once you go beyond a search and a click, you're really starting to stretch how far that user's going out of the flow in order to gain in-the-flow support. Always be aware that the journey doesn't start when your content starts. It starts when someone realizes they need the help. So with those 4 tips in mind, I wanted to give you some advice around actually creating video. Now, none of this is going to be new or revolutionary advice, but I think it's really important, and especially so when you're trying something new. So first things first, do it. Do it now. Don't worry, I'm not going to put on an Arnie voice and say get to the chopper at the end. Not going to do that at all. That would be embarrassing and strange, wouldn't it? Use the camera that you have. A smartphone is fine. You don't need a room full of equipment to record great video. A couple of years ago, let's say 10 years ago, you absolutely did. Cameras, good cameras for video, cost thousands of pounds. You'd need lights, you'd need expensive cameras, you would need microphones, you would need cabling, you would need a dedicated space. Now, pretty much every one of us can pull a 4K 60 FPS camera out of our pockets and start filming. That's an incredible tool to have available to you. Now, I realise you may not want to use your mobile phone for work. That's perfectly valid, and you should never be pressured into doing so. If your workplace wants video, your workplace should foot the bill. That means providing a work phone, that means providing a work camera, whatever equipment is actually necessary, your work should provide. That said, don't let it be the barrier. If you decide you want to push video forwards, you want to try this out, whether it's for work or yourself, just get started. Film your first video today. And remember, no matter what you're filming on, audio is king. Bad audio is the #1 killer of videos. Passable audio is so easy these days. If you're recording on a quote-unquote real camera, then you'll have microphone inputs so that you can cable those up properly, usually with XLRs or perhaps using lapel mics. But even if you're using a mobile phone, there are now a whole range of lapel mics and boom mics that attach directly to mobile devices, whether that's through the standard jack or whether that's through the Lightning connector or a USB-C connector. There's no excuse for bad audio. You can get away with bad video, but not bad audio. Next up, timing. Everyone always wants to know what's the ideal length of time for a video. Well, the simple answer is, it depends. Videos should be as long as they need to be and not a second longer. Do not waste time on your videos with fancy introductions. You're not putting these on YouTube to become the next star on the platform. You're doing it to help someone. Don't put a great big section at the end about further resources if that's not immediately relevant to the person you're trying to help. Remember what your content is about, deliver it, and then stop creating content. Next up, reduce load. Use Mayer's principles of multimedia learning to reduce cognitive load, or as I should say, manage cognitive load. This is simple, but it is essential. Reading up on those principles should be the first thing you do when you decide you want to try using video, or you want to go back to using video after a while. It's very exciting to get behind the camera or in front of the camera or in front of the editing system, but start with those foundational principles in mind and keep them front of mind throughout the creation process. Accessibility. Provide closed captions and a transcript alternative. This could not be any simpler or any clearer or any more necessary. Just provide captions, just provide a transcript. There's not an alternative, it's not optional, they're not an add-on, they are an essential component to utilising video in any way in L&D. Finally, think about involvement. How do you get your users, your learners, the people in your business involved? How do you get them in front of the camera, or writing scripts, or reviewing, or offering feedback? How do you turn them into workplace celebrities because everyone suddenly sees them and they become the voice of whatever it is they're talking about? Not only can this be a fantastic development opportunity for them, it's also work off your shoulders. Getting them involved will secure their buy-in, and they will go and recommend that content to everyone else in the business they know. So as we approach the end of this session, what I'd really like to say is, don't listen to me. I'm just a guy who does stuff and talks about it. Many would even say I talk about it a little too much, and they'd probably have a point. But there are people out there who really do know their stuff. So here are 4 things I suggest everyone reads if they have even a passing interest in utilising video for in-the-flow content. Learning Experience Design, How to Create Effective Learning That Works by Donald Clark. The Cambridge Handbook of Multimedia Learning, 3rd edition by Richard Mayer and Logan Fiorella. Apologies, Logan, if I've mispronounced your name. Designing and Developing Performance Support, Magnifying Proven Practices in Performance-Based Instructional Design Projects by Guy Wallace. Phenomenal book. And finally, Learning Science for Instructional Designers, From Cognition to Application by Clark Quinn, a must-read for anyone working in our field. These are the people that I go to and read when I want to learn how I should be doing something or when I'm considering trying something new. And I strongly suggest that you try some of them out. Now, some of these books are linked in the description below. Some of them may or may not, depending on whether or not I remember, be affiliate links that help support the channel but cost you absolutely nothing, but that I want to declare that that's what we're doing. But I can personally recommend all 4 of these books, and I regularly refer back to them. It's not as if they're one-off reads that you then don't gain anything from in the future. So that's it from me on the world of in-the-flow learning and video. Now, one thing that came up repeatedly in the questioning at the session was around, how do I get the business to buy into this idea? Well, it really depends on what the business is concerned about. Now, if the business is concerned about the cost, show them how cheap it can be. Create a video, launch it. Show them it can be done quickly and without taking up masses of resources. If their concern is that they don't think it will work, bring the receipts, bring some evidence. The 4 books on the screen will back you up pretty nicely. There's loads of research out there to support the use of video and in-the-flow learning. Another question was, how do you make sure people are actually getting use out of these things? Now, actually seeing if they use them, i.e. how many views a video has got, is pretty easy on any platform. And so what I like to talk about when this question comes up is about what else we're tracking. Are these standalone videos and are they in an LMS? In which case, how are they being tracked? If they're not and they're on Stream or something by Microsoft, you'll have some tracking, but maybe not as much as you want. But you could plug that into Power BI and then maybe feed back to the LMS. Do you want this platform to be about tracking or do you want it to be about impact? Is always the decision someone needs to make early doors. It's not to say it can't be both further down the line, but at least to start with, knowing where your priorities lie will really help you out. I hope you found this talk useful. It seemed to go down really well at World of Learning, and as I said, made some adjustments based on the feedback. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please pop them down in the comments, and if you have enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to the channel before you leave.